Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And this evening, we bring you a roundup of all of today's transfer news, club news. And of course, we are joined by co-host Jack Kanicki, and we call him the resident transfer expert, Matty Hayes. Jack, how are you keeping this evening, my man?
Keeping pretty well, Dave. I wish there were kind of better news out there, for us Spurs fans when it comes to the transfer window. But, we have to keep the faith, and Dark Sun G, he's gone for 8 signings. And, that's what we know. It just needs to happen. And we have to meet Dark Sun G's needs, Dave. But it's good to be here just to kind of have like a, just a little chat about the headlines.
Yeah, look, and what we're trying to basically do here is just kind of go through the headlines of basically, by the end of the discussion, hopefully we'll know whether it's actually a player that we actually need and whether there's actually any proper or general interest in these rumors. So we will wait and see. Matty, how are you keeping, my man? Great to have you back, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Good to be back. I know everyone probably says it on every single stream, but we're on the 20th of July and we've made 6 signings. I'm not quite sure I don't know how to act like a big club, but we're doing our very best, and I'm enjoying it. And as always, a pleasure to be on here with you guys.
No, it is. It's an absolute pleasure. And big up everybody for joining us as well. Before we do get going into the headlines, we will be, of course, talking all the latest on Leicester City and what's going on with James Madison. We'll be talking a bit on Conte's quotes on Jed Spence. Seems to be rocking the fan base at the minute. So we'll see what these guys' opinions are today. We'll also be talking about Zaniolo, Jordan Veretout, who we were linked with back in January, and a bit on Sergio Reguilon as well, and Lucas Paqueta as well. So plenty to get through, guys. Big up Nick. He says it's hot as a pair of beautifully manicured Manscaped material out here, but I got to yell Gooners suck out the window of my car 3 times today, so I call it a good one. I mean, look, you've got to get in your daily dose, to be honest with you, Nick. So I do not blame you.
Good
you
therapy.
Really do have to get into your daily dose, my man. But look, guys, we will get straight into the Jed Spence saga, and then we will get back to some of the comments. Let's kick it off hot and heavy. So as we know, basically Conte and Alistair Gold have caused quite a lot of controversy last night from an interview that Alistair Gold done with Conte. And Conte in that interview, basically, to cut it short, it says, Spence is an investment of the club. The club wanted to do it. I said, okay. This player is young, but he showed he can become a good, important player for us. The club decided to buy him. Now, Matty, we'll start with you on this one. Could Spurs fans be over-exaggerating and misinterpreting Conte's quotes and meaning like we have done in the past after the Burnley result? Or is this a Levy club signing that Conte and Paratici actually have no part in?
There's kind of two parts to answering that. The first one is Tottenham will not make a single signing, will not even consider making a single signing without the go-ahead of Antonio Conte and of Fabio Paratici. We know all along that Daniel Levy has been leading the negotiations in this one. He has personal connections or a personal relationship with Jed Spence's representatives, so it made more sense for him to be the man leading these negotiations. I did have the feeling all along that this wasn't completely an Antonio Conte signing, but that doesn't mean that Antonio Conte doesn't want him. And Antonio Conte said it himself. He gave the green light because he thinks he can become a very important player for Tottenham. And I think it was an Italian journalist that was kind of explaining it yesterday, where Antonio Conte, sometimes he will come out and he will say, he's looking for a left wing back. He might say, I want Perisic. He look for a centre mid. He'd say, I want Basuma. In the right wing back situation, it looks as though maybe he said, I want a player who's good at this, and this, who can do this and who can do this. So in certain positions, he doesn't identify a particular player, but identifies a profile of player and a player in a certain demographic that he wants. And then Paratici goes out and gets it, or the club goes out and gets it. So I can see where the concern is coming from. And in terms of the Tottenham fans misinterpreting the quote or something like that, Antonio Conte said a lot in that press conference. I think it was the last press conference he had in Korea before they headed home. He said a lot in that press conference. I know on Twitter you're confined to 280 characters, but there's a reason that Charlie Eccleshare and Alistair Gold picked that quote. And it's the same reason that I would have picked that quote, is that if you see that and an article attached, you're going to click into the article. You're going to go and see what that means. So out of context, it is a worrying quote, because we always have the feeling that Daniel Levy just struggles to to stay away from that side of things and struggles not to have that little bit of control. And I think we're always going to have that concern. Conte could be here in 5 years' time with 2 Premier League titles under his belt, and we'd still think, oh, but what if Levy does this? So I don't think it was taken the wrong way by Spurs fans. It's just the way it was presented to us initially. I panicked when I saw that for the first time, and not panicked in a way that I think Conte's going to go. I panicked in the sense of it's a very important position for us next season. It was a position where we lacked a lot of what we needed from there last season, and I think ultimately that cost us in a number of games. And if you're getting in a player that Conte doesn't want or Conte isn't happy with, you're going to end up in that situation again next season where you're lacking that creativity, you're lacking that attacking threat that we need in that position. But the fact that Antonio Conte gave the go-ahead for this signing and has said himself he thinks he could become an important player, for me is all I need. Conte is convinced that he is the right man. He sanctioned this signing, and we're not going to get a single signing that isn't that case. And I was arguing with an Arsenal fan earlier, as we obviously have to do. And
it's a rite of passage.
It is. And he made the point that next season it might be 2 signings from Daniel Levy that Conte doesn't want. The next season, whatever. But Tottenham, in getting to this point with Antonio Conte, have invested well in excess of £200 million to get to this point. So I'm talking signing on fees for Antonio Conte, his 12-15 million pound a year wage, the bonuses for getting into the Champions League that was split with the squad, transfers. So we spent 50 million, or committed to spending 50 million in January, and a further 150 million pounds now. To get to this situation with Antonio Conte, Tottenham have invested more money than we ever thought they would have. There's still 50 million pounds of that investment to be drawn down before the end of this year. They would not, even Daniel Levy would not risk what he has built with all that money for the sake of one signing. Now, I'm not saying it's not a club signing. It's very much a Tottenham signing. A young player from the EFL. His value is at its lowest. The Middlesbrough team who don't want him, he's just had a fantastic season in the Championship. He's only going to get better. That is a Tottenham signing, but it's one that has been sanctioned by Antonio Conte. And like I said, for me, that's all you need to know. Conte look,
it's definitely good to get that cleared up. And Matty, just before I give my quick thoughts and get Jack's as well, Paddy wants to know where your picture has gone. If someone robbed it, he called it the crooked picture.
It's actually over in the corner there. I have it out of shot, so people aren't giving out about it every 2 seconds. But it's going to be back up. It's going to be back up eventually.
I love it. Love it. Big up, Paddy Harnett. Look, for me, I'll be honest with you, Jack. I'm actually not surprised that it's a club signing, because I've been saying it all window. Tottenham will make a signing that they see beneficial for them for the future, that they anticipate being here longer than Antonio Conte, or someone that they feel that they can develop and earn real money off. Every club does it across, most clubs do it across world football. So I'm not surprised, and I don't really understand why people are in uproar, if I'm being honest. Look, people put in the comments, tell me why you think I should be concerned, but I don't understand it, because for me, I think we should have expected that at least 1, maybe 2, were always going to be something that the club wanted to do, and especially since, we found out that Jed Spence played the 2 FA Cup games against us, and we've been tracking them since then. So, Jack, what's your thoughts on the whole situation on the coach yesterday, my man?
I think you raised a good point there, where it feels like everybody was sort of, kind of acknowledging, or at least being somewhat honest with the fact that this seemed like a Levy or kind of a club signing, you could say in it, even if, Antonio Conte gave his approval still, like in that quote. He said, they gave him the player, the club, tracked the player, the club identified the player, and he said, yeah, that looks okay for me. But he clearly made his distance, known between, his sort of, identity or his sort of influence on the signing. He made it very clear that he wasn't the one tracking the player, or, kind of identifying that player as kind of, the solution for his system. But he seems to just kind of acknowledge that this is the club signing that everybody acknowledged, like you said, Dave, in the first place, that, Spurs would make. It wasn't going to be 8 signings that Conte individually handpicked himself. I think we all kind of, I don't know, it feels like, at one stage we were all acknowledging that there's going to at least be 1 or 2 signings that were going to be kind of, Daniel Levy signings, or, kind of the club signings. And I'm not surprised that, the club signing that they kind of see as, their sort of own investment, or their sort of kind of own tracking, is a homegrown signing too, like a homegrown signing that they could see as maybe the replacement for Kyle Walker, the never-ending saga.
Yeah, 100%. And look, people, put in the comments if you think I should be seeing it from a different perspective. Do not be afraid to put it in the comments and open my eyes to it. But Matty, do you think Jed Spence will actually care about these comments? Because look, he's a young guy, 21. You know, he's been put out there in the press last night, and look, not by his own doing for this time. And for me, I'm not sure whether it will give him a point to prove or whether, it'll put the pressure on him and he might crumble under that pressure. Do you think Jed Spence will actually care about them comments? Or do you think
he'd pay much attention to them, to be honest? From a player perspective, I would assume they're fairly neutral comments, because he would have spoken to Antonio Conte. Conte would have spoken to him before this deal went through, as this deal was going through, after the deal went through. He's trained already. He will know exactly what Conte thinks about him. And I would say with a lot of confidence that Conte will be a lot more honest with him behind closed doors than he would be talking about him in the press. So I think at times Conte says stuff in the media for the benefit of the players, whether that's to give him a kick after the defeat at Turf Moor, or to say they're the best team he ever worked with after the win against Manchester City. But in scenarios like this, what he says behind closed doors is how he feels. He's not going to beat around the bush, and he's certainly not going to oversell how good he thinks Spence is. So I'm sure Spence at this point will know where he is in the plans, whether he's first choice, whether he's rotation option, whether he needs to earn any, to be any part of the team. So I think he's a player who has a lot of character, and the mentality that he has gotten him to the point that he is. This time last year, Neil Warnock was sending him out on loan, saying, "Are they going to be non-league or Premier League?" Now he's Premier League, and one of the best managers in the world has decided to sign him. One of the best managers in the world, and from his point of view as well, whether he thinks he's good enough, whether he thinks Conte is a fan of him or not, ultimately he's in a situation right now where he's a wing back playing with the manager who makes wing backs world class. Who made Ashraf Hakimi was a fantastic player, shone miles better than he ever had under Antonio Conte. Obviously, then look at Candreva at Inter Milan, Lichtsteiner as well at Juventus, with Asamoah at Juventus, and Moses and Alonso at Chelsea. So Spence has a fantastic opportunity, and I don't think he can afford to be anything other than 100% sold on a situation, as I assume he is. And on the point you made a second ago about Tottenham tracking Spence after the FA Cup games a couple of years ago, I'm not too concerned about that, because 2 years ago, 3 years, 4 years ago, we were tracking James Madison. We wanted to sign Madison when he was at Coventry, and again when he was at Norwich. So if anything, that's a positive thing, that our scouting team are actually doing a good job and had been doing a good job. But yeah, I think Spence is in a brilliant situation right now, and Conte will be giving him all the motivation he needs.
Yeah, and you know what? For me, I actually think, like, you look at Spence. He wasn't fancied by Neil Warnock at Middlesbrough, got sent out to Forest, and look what he went on to do at Nottingham Forest. He proved the manager wrong. So I actually think he actually will come out with a point to prove, and I think he might actually secretly thrive under that pressure. But Jack, last question on Spence before we move on. Do you think we can read anything into, while the Spence saga was going on, Conte made a point of playing Lucas Moura at right wing back? Do you think Conte could be sending out a message saying, look, I need someone quality in this position? Or do you think it's something he always planned to do, but that he just didn't want to do it in the middle of the season, and he actually wanted to wait to preseason till he could work with Lucas Moura? Do you think we should be reading anything into that, basically, that he's asked Lucas Moura to play a right wing back while this whole Jed Spence saga was running on?
I would say all of the above if that were a multiple choice question there, Dave. I'd say because when it comes to Lucas, what he brings is sort of what Jed Spence would bring from the wingback position. This is why, what we probably noticed, I think on this channel at least, is that all the wingbacks that we're kind of going after, a lot of the things that they at least seem to have in common is that they're able to take it past their man in the one-on-one situations. They're able to beat their man on the dribble. They're able to just, be able to size up whatever fullback or, defender they're coming up against and kind of make things happen, with being able to skin past them. And Lucas, we know, can do that, of course. We know Jed Spence can do that. When it comes to Doherty, Emerson, not really, that story. With Lucas, I think it's that, reasoning, Dave, is that he offers that sort of ability, to skin past his man. I think it's also like, a lot of fans wanted. They wanted to see Lucas come in as a wingback, but it was just way too risky, I think, to do that mid-season, especially when all those games were really crucial and had a lot of meaning behind them. And when you're kind of putting someone like Lucas as a defensive, kind of, player, it would be really risky and questionable. And potentially, lastly here, Dave, Lucas, he kind of sees his opportunities as a winger or as a forward. He might not get many minutes, in this Antonio Conte team. Perhaps he went up to Conte and said, you know what, if I can get, 800 more minutes, this season, maybe you can play me at wing back.
Yeah, 100%. And look, it'd be very interesting to see how Spence and Lucas Moura get on this season. Can they provide each other with some good competition at that right wing back? It's definitely exciting. Will it work out? We're not 100% sure. But what we will do is we will wait and see. And we're just going to take some of these super chats before we get into all things James Madison. Dark Sun G with the super chat says here, 2 weeks left before the new season and he cannot wait. Also, I have complete faith in the Don to ship out players and bring in 2 or 3 more before the window ends. Matty, do you share the same faith as Dark Sun G in the Don?
I feel like I always do this when I come on the channel. I just crush everybody's dreams. 2 to 3 more signings at this point, I would say, is incredibly unlikely. I do see where you're coming from, and I do kind of share the same hope that when we start offloading players like Ndombele, Celso, Reguilon, etc., that we will then have more money to invest elsewhere. But I said it on my stream earlier. I'd bet on 1 more signing maximum. That could be a massive signing. It could be another, like maybe youth player coming in or something like that. But yeah, I'm very excited for the season. I am. I think we'll do very well in the season, so I agree with that part. Yeah. But in terms of 2 to 3 more players, I personally don't see it happening.
Well, look, I would like to. If I'm being honest, I would like a centre attacking midfielder, even though for me that's not priority. But everyone knows I'm not even going to go on it today why we need one. But we need a centre back. So look, I would like to see 2 signings. If it's 1, let's see what happens. Let's see what area Tottenham or Conte decide is priority. But big yourself up, Dark Sun G. Hopefully Matty hasn't crushed your dreams, brother. Hopefully he hasn't crushed them dreams. Dark Sun G also says we can have a full rotation team for once with 2 to 3 more in. I mean, Jack, would you share the same sentiments as Dark Sun G, the same vision where basically he wants 2 players for every position, but 2 players that are quality?
That's why I think we've settled on 8 signings, being, kind of the perfect, kind of number for, fixing all of Spurs', kind of issues. And a long time ago, I think when we were even kind of asking ourselves, how many signings would it really take, to probably fix most of Spurs' issues, I think a lot of us came around to around 8 or 9 signings. And if we had pulled that off all in the summer window, which I still think, we can, Dark Sun G, don't lose faith in the Dawn, but I don't need to tell Dark Sun G that. But yeah, Dave, I think, with 8 signings, you kind of fix all your problems. Absolutely.
Yeah, look, it's an ideal scenario to be in. Once you do that, you're a serious football club with serious ambitions. And I like where your mind is at, Dark Sun G. Big yourself up, my man. Big up, Graham, absolute legend. I just want to take this comment as well before I get the rest of the super chats, because this is a very good one. Matty, Graham wants to know, has Romero signed as his loan deal ended on the 30th of June?
I think he has. I was actually talking with someone with this on Twitter earlier. I know Fabrizio Romano tweeted on the 24th of May, so nearly 2 months ago, that Tottenham, in the next couple of days, we're going to trigger that. So it's an obligation to buy, but we have the option to trigger it, I think, this summer or next summer. As my best guess would be that Tottenham have triggered it. And the point that was made to me was that there was no announcement from the club. There was nothing to say we have done this, but I think that would only happen if it was an option to buy, because it is an obligation. There's no scenario where we don't end up with Romero. So I don't think there is a need for an announcement. Now look, it may not have happened yet, but going on what Fabrizio Romano said a couple of months ago, I would assume that has been made permanent already.
Well, there you are, Graham. Hopefully that clears that up, my man. And look, who knows? Maybe that's where some of the 150 million is gone. We will wait and see what happens with that. Benedict Hampus, one of the greatest names. I love it. Big up, my man. I don't know why, but it just reminds me of William Shakespeare. Don't ask why. But he says, evening, chaps. We might end up with 10 at this rate. Is that good for balance or morale? Time will tell. Big up, lads. Now, look, I'll kick this one off because it's actually a very good question. Look, when you bring in a lot of signings, for instance, 10, look, it's very hard to hit the ground running and get all them signings to bed in and get going from day dot. It also changes the whole dynamics of the dressing room as well. So it's not ideal. It is not ideal. But what I will say is morale actually quickly. I actually think it probably improved morale because the more winners we bring in here, the more motivated they are and the more it rub off on other people that you're not just at Tottenham for a good time and a kickabout. You're here to actually win things and you're going to take it seriously. So I do think that will probably actually improve morale because it can't be any worse than when we had Aurier, Sissoko, Ndombele, Lo Celso, Dele Alli, and the list goes on. Of the players that we've got rid of. Hopefully Harry Winks is another one of them weasels on the way out. But for me, I actually think it would probably improve morale. But it's a big risk though, Jack, bringing in basically half a new squad, more or less.
Yeah, I really like the point that you made there, where can you really expect to, get all of them, to kind of, adapt to the Premier League, get all of them to be comfortable in the squad, all of them to, settle into London, kind of settle into kind of the vibe of the dressing room and everything. It just seems a bit crazy. It's almost like, you could even treat it like if you had like 10 kids at once, Dave. Like, I don't really think you could treat them all, with, the same sort of, kind of special, kind of care and kind of, affection. So it's a good point there that Benedict makes, that I know with, 8 signings, even 9 signings, it's kind of like, yeah, Spurs fixed all of their problems. But those are a lot of new heads in that building. Those are a lot of new heads in the dressing room. Does that really maybe mess with the, kind of the vibe in the dressing room? Does it mess with kind of the momentum around the clubhouse? Potentially.
Yeah, 100%. And Matty, have you any input on this? I mean, it's a great question by Benedict, actually. It's something I didn't even think about. Very good question.
It's good for morale for the people who want to win and who want to be at their best. It's bad for morale for the Harry Winkses and the Tongi and Ndombeles who just want to. Sorry, maybe it's unfair to put Harry Winks in that category, but for the players who aren't good enough to compete, who aren't good enough to compete to be in the team. If you're Højbjerg, you've been an integral part of this team for 2 years. You've rightly had your place in that team for a long time. Now probably in a position where he's not in our number one pairing in midfield. I would personally go with Basuma and Bentancur. Højbjerg will thrive off that. That will make him better. That competition will make him better. Harry Kane now, who has for the first time at Tottenham, I wouldn't say competition, but a player who's definitely capable of playing better in certain games and is better suited to certain games than Harry Kane. He now has that competition behind him. For a player like Ndombele, who just wants to turn up, run around for 10 or so minutes, then just kind of bend over and watch the ball go past him for another 80, that's bad for him because there's no place in the squad for him now. So I absolutely see where you're coming from, and I do to some extent share those concerns as well. But for the players that we want to do well, they will do well. Or the players that want to do well will do well. One other thing I would say is that we've made 6 signings, potentially whatever that could increase to 7 or 8. Not all of those are going to work out. I think individually we can look at all of these transfers and see why they would work out. But when we're signing 6 players in one window, adding half of them to a new league, adding some to new teams, different positions, different kind of roles within the squad, not all of them are going to work out. And that's when maybe saying there are 6 new players in that squad in 6 months' time mightn't be the case. It could be 4, it could be 5. So I'm certainly not concerned enough about that to make it an issue.
And one thing I'd definitely add to that is if you look at the dressing room maybe from the Poch era and coming into the Conte era, we still have the nucleus of what formed that great camaraderie, that great dressing room from the Poch era. Kane, Son, Lloris. Look, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to throw Dyer in there. You know what I mean? And there's a couple of other players still around. And for me, they're the ones that have always kind of been the glue to that dressing room, the good eggs in that dressing room, and they're still there. And what we have done is we kind of offloaded a lot of shit that's come in since then that have just turned that dressing room absolutely toxic. So, look, maybe it's not a bad thing, Benedict, thinking on it. Maybe I've talked myself around, my man. Big up, Benedict. Really appreciate the support, brother. We have Love's Music says Spence makes sense on every level. I'm a believer. Yeah, look, for me, I actually don't mind the signing. I've said this from day dot, so no one should be surprised. For me, I see the mad potential in this guy. He's one that I believe he can go on to great things depending on how hard he works and how much he wants it, and depending, hopefully, that he can keep his hunger. And he's under the right guy, like Matty expressed, Kandreva, Lichtsteiner, Victor Moses, you know what I mean? He's under the right guy, Hakimi, to develop him and to get him to that sort of level, that Champions League level, which Neil Warnock said he could be, or if he didn't end up in non-league. So, look, I think it makes sense. He's homegrown. He's one that will come in with a point to prove. Everyone needs someone younger behind them chasing down their jersey, and it brings competition at the end of the day. Maybe competition that Emerson and Doherty don't see coming. So, look, we'll wait and see how he gets on, but on with your love music. Big up, my man.
Definitely.
And then we have this one from Dark Sung G, and we will kick on then to the James Madison saga. And he says, Liverpool, and I love the way he keeps using VAR in capital letters, did buy Carvalho, or whatever you call him, from Fulham, and that right back from the Championship. So big clubs do buy youngsters for the future who can play in the first team. And look, City done it with Alvarez, that guy from Argentina, who, may I add, me and Jack did do a scout report, and I said he's overrated, so I could end up eating my words on that. But we will wait and see. I did kind of reference him as the next Eric Lamela. But
that is an outrageous shout.
Look, if I'm wrong, I'll take it on the chin. But Matty, I mean, is it something that all clubs do, or is it something that maybe I'm just making up?
Buying the young players?
Buying, like, clubs basically bringing in a player that they see they can develop and sell on for a huge fee, or someone that they can develop for the first team in future that isn't necessarily what the manager is looking for.
Yeah, I'd say it does happen everywhere. Maybe not to the extent that it has happened with Tottenham in the past.
Yes.
But absolutely. I mean, if you're, Manchester City now and buying Alvarez, fantastic player. I've been calling for him at Tottenham since January. I would have loved to have seen him come to us, but ultimately, if he's coming in now. I can't remember how much they paid for him. But let's say he's come in and they're hoping he's going to become an £80 million player. That could be the next Aguero for Manchester City. If he reaches half the potential that he thinks he will, that's £40 million. They can sell him then and get 40 million back in. So I think even with Tottenham, maybe because a lot of these haven't worked out, we could look at it as them bringing in players to develop them and then sell them on. But I think when you buy players young that you think have a lot of potential, it is to some extent a win-win, because you can either sell them for profit or keep them and they're a fantastic player for you. So I think maybe the big clubs don't use that as a main transfer strategy like Tottenham have done. But it definitely has to be there. I mean, no club is going to survive and is going to thrive off just buying ready-made players, because that's not really a sustainable business model. If you're going to constantly buy the best players at their peak, you're going to lose money consistently, and it's just not that sustainable for them. So I can't see why teams wouldn't do that. And even Barcelona, I know if we're talking about financial well-being of a football club, they're probably the last club that we want to talk about. But even they buy young players. They bring a lot of players in from the second division in Spain to try and make them go on. They were interested in Brian Hill. For me, it's definitely a thing that Tottenham should keep doing, but it shouldn't take priority over getting in the Basumas and the Richarlisons and the Perisic's.
Yeah, and look, I think everyone can accept one or two signings. I think where Spurs fans get really worried and hurt is because it's always been that way. The majority of the signings have actually been the club signings over the manager. And we know that with Pochettino, what went on there. So, look, hopefully now that we are starting to get our windows right, and that now we can start doing this without any big circus around it. That would be nice. But big up Dark Zone G, brother. I really do appreciate the support, my man. Now, everybody, there's 330 people in house right now. Everyone smashed that like button. Only 67 likes. I'm actually shocked. Should at least be 100. Surely we're doing enough to at least get 100, let alone 200 or 300, where I'd ideally like to be at. And guys, we have caught up with the chat now, so we will get your comments up now as we're going along. But guys, feel free to send in a super chat. Basically, highlight your comment, and you get to skip that chat, and we will get straight to it and have a good discussion, as you see we've done on the others coming in so far. And it is a great way to help support the channel and everything we are trying to do here. But look, guys, we are going to move on to James Madison and have a good discussion on this and basically see where we're at the end of it. But there have been many reports linking Madison with a move to Tottenham over the last week, although I haven't seen any that have actually given a rough price of how much it will cost. And I know he does only have 2 years left on his contract, and that Spurs have held interest, I believe, since 2017 when he was at Norwich. And then it's seen a report today came out by the Daily Telegraph, and according to the Telegraph, Leicester could be forced into selling more valuable assets amid fears over financial fair play. And basically as well, if they can't shift off any of the lesser players, they might actually have to cash in on a star or two. This means that the likes of Madison, Iheanacho, Castagna, maybe Tielemans as well could become available as the window progresses. And this comes also off the back of Brendan Rodgers calling last season, I was in around February, March, for an overhaul of the squad as well. And Leicester are still yet to do any business, so they are in quite a precarious position. Now, Matty, maybe you can clear up what the financial situation is with Leicester if you know, and we'll come back to Jack on this as well. But do Tottenham actually hold any real interest in Madison? And how much do you think it will actually cost to prize him away? Because as I said, I don't really see any fees being banded about.
The first part of that question, Peter's going to ask it in the chat as well. Is this link with Madison fan-driven? Is there anything in it? Tottenham are absolutely interested in James Madison. They're 100%. There is interest there from the club, and there has been for quite a while, both back to 2017, as you mentioned, when he was at Coventry, again when he was at Norwich, and even earlier in this summer when he was at Leicester. From what I know, Tottenham made an inquiry to Leicester about the player. Now, the interest now, and that, as Paul O'Keefe put it, we're seriously considering going back in for that. What that would lead me to believe is the price earlier in the summer that Tottenham kind of scoffed at. If we're going back in now, that would suggest that we think we can make a deal happen in and around the price, or negotiable in relation to what Leicester quoted us earlier in the summer. Now, what that fee is, I would assume it's in and around the £50 million mark. I could be way off on that, but that is just kind of my prediction of kind of what it would take for that. With Leicester's financial situation, it's not terrible. It's not like Everton's, it's not like Barcelona's, it's not like Inter Milan's. But for the first time in quite a while, they haven't qualified for European football. And the prize money that they're missing out on, the TV rights that they're missing out on, it will affect them. And as John Percy from the Telegraph put it, they're in a situation where they need to sell to buy, which we Tottenham fans know way too well. So you're potentially in a situation now where we're trying to figure out what players they can sell to fund incomings that are actually going to happen. And the only one at the moment that has been properly linked is Boubakary Soumaré, who they of course signed from Lille last summer. It just hasn't worked out for him. Today he's been linked to Monaco. Apparently Monaco have come in and made an initial offer, which has been rebuked by Leicester, but they're prepared to come in with another offer. And I would imagine they will get a decent fee for Soumaré. He's had one bad season, but he's shown already with Lille that he is good enough to play in Ligue 1. And Monaco, they seem to get in a lot of really good players, despite the fact that they're not quite challenging at the top of the league like they were 5-6 years ago. So Soumaré on the way out is a potential way to get money in. With Tielemans, it seems as though he has his heart set on Arsenal, which is an embarrassing thing for him, really. I pity the people that have put their trust in him to be a good footballer, that's the ceiling he thinks he has for himself. But that can't be a big sale because he only has 1 year left on his contract. So. Right.
Let me just ask you, does he prefer Arsenal because he prefers them as a club, or does he prefer Arsenal because he looks at their midfield and he's a shoo-in to get in there, whereas with our midfield, he's not necessarily a shoo-in to get in?
Yeah, that could be it. I don't think Tottenham are in for Tielemans at all, so I don't think it's a question of Tottenham or Arsenal, but I think last season did affect his reputation a little bit because he seemed to down tools a bit for Leicester. We all remember the part he played in our winner at the King Power in January. For me, it is very strange that he sees Arsenal as it could be the next stepping stone for him, but he's 25 years of age now, so I would assume if he's going to go to the top level, it needs to be now. But in terms of the money they could get in for that, there's a year left in his contract, so whether they accept a cut price now, or what I think will happen is he stays for another season, moves on a free next summer, and he himself gets a massive signing on bonus. Which again probably shows where his mentality is at. Other players I've seen mentioned by Leicester fan, Charles Soyuncu, Jose Perez, and someone else. There's someone else he mentioned as potential big sales. So for me, looking at it from an outside point of view, realistically, the only one that could actually get money for is Madison. So what we know for a fact at this moment is Tottenham are heavily interested in James Madison. He's not a main target. He's just one player in what I assume is a very long list of attacking midfielders in the way Prachi does things. So we know Tottenham are interested. We know Leicester could be in a position where they have to sell. So it might be lining up properly, but I will say at this point in time, I don't think Tottenham will sign James Madison. But it could happen. As Alistair Gold said, let's not get our confidence up, but it could happen.
We'll wait and see. Jack, do you think that Madison is on his way out because he wants European football. Leicester City fans saw Tielemans complain and down tools because he was forced to stick around. Would they go through that again with Madison, or do you think that if we did put in the money, they'd probably chance around to get the deal done this time?
I think there's a lot of substance and a lot of validity behind the rumors that Madison wants to leave. Like the question says there, Tielemans complained about playing at Leicester City when he kind of wanted to go. I kind of am confused why he was complaining though, because I believe he started in the Europa League and now he's headed off to Arsenal where he'll be back in the Europa League. So I'm not really sure what Tielemans was really complaining about over at Leicester City. He's kind of just returning back to the same situation. But away from that tangent on Tielemans, when it comes to Madison, I feel like Europa League European football is a bare minimum for players like that of his quality. Once you slip away from European competition, I feel like players like that, they don't stick around, too long. I think Richarlison, is even kind to Everton for staying there for so long, considering, how long he was without, European football himself. I think James Madison is, headed out because no European football. Leicester City, they've probably got to cash in on him now if he is going to, kind of down tools, if he is going to be upset, about, sticking around. I don't feel like they want to go through that again. The fans seem really upset with Tielemans when Tielemans stuck around. So I assume they're going to kind of learn their lesson.
Yeah, look, and I hope so, because, look, at the end of the day, Madison is off the back of a good campaign by his standards. I think he reached, 18 goals last season across all competitions with a decent amount of assists as well. He's 25, heading into the prime of his career. I'm sure he will look and want to take that next step. So we'll see what happens with that. But, guys, what I also want to touch on, and there's a few people in the comments, kind of have mentioned it as well, like Caveman here has, is, look, Leicester City, they actually do have solid fullbacks, and they've got them in abundance. And we'll keep with you on this, Jack, and then get back to Matty. Is there any chance of a smokescreen move here for one of their wingbacks, like Castagna, Pereira, James Justin? And there's a couple more there as well.
I really would love to take Ricardo Pereira. He probably slot into that right wing back spot quite well. He's very attack minded. Is probably the most attack minded, I think, of those kind of fullbacks that they have over at Leicester. I like Castagna. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's a bit more defensive than Pereira is. He can even, slot in at kind of like a right-sided center back I've seen before. Over at Leicester City, he's a very versatile player, which, kind of shows that he is a bit of a technician. I'd take either Castagna or Pereira. Justin, I really like too, but maybe another sort of defensive kind of wing back, if you ask me. But he actually had a lot of success playing as like a inverted left back, I think, at one stage, for Leicester a campaign or two ago. I really like all of their fullbacks. I don't really see this being a smokescreen, though, Dave. Yeah, I think we're probably interested in Madison. I'd love if we actually took Ricardo Pereira, though. I would love that.
Matty, do you think Tottenham could potentially actually be interested in any of their fullbacks, like Jack wants Pereira? Do you think there could potentially be any interest?
I doubt it, to be honest. It's a good point, and again, none of us would be too surprised if we woke up tomorrow morning and Tottenham had announced one of them with the way the summer is going. But
that'd be nice.
It would. At the moment, we have 3 right wing back options, 4 if you want to include Lucas Moura, and we have 3 left wing back options in Perisic, Sessegnon, and Reguilon, despite the fact that he'll probably be moving on. So I'd be very surprised if anything is going on with any of the wing backs, and especially considering we're probably coming to the end of our business, and Conte wants a number 10. I think this is probably just genuine interest in Madison.
Yeah, and look, maybe it's worth noting the fact that we did bring in Jed Spence. Will we go after one of them? Probably not, but a lot of Spurs fans will be interested, so we'll see how that pans out. You just never know at the transfer window, although I do tend to go along the lines of what Matty does say. Ryan Trestane says, what are all 3 of your opinions on James Madison, and what do you think are our chances of winning the league? Look, I'll start. Look, like I said, James Madison, what was it? I'll tell you now exactly what it was. I did do my homework, by the way. 18 goals and 12 assists across all competitions last year. Like I said, 25 going into his prime, probably looking for the move. Look, again, He's one I think is slightly overrated. I don't think he's as good as people make him out to be. And the reason why I say that is, look, he's constantly getting overlooked for England, constantly getting overlooked. And there's got to be a reason why. Look, for me, I wouldn't say no. I mean, I love new players coming in here. I really do. I wouldn't say no. If he came in, I wouldn't be, throwing my toys out the pram. I do think there's definitely a good player in there. I just think the way people hype him up, it's slightly too much. But there is definitely a player in there. Plus, the guy's got a good fucking free kick on him, so that's another plus. So why not bring him in here? We struggle from set pieces. Just send Dyer and Kane away from them and bring Madison in and let him take them. And our chances of winning the league, look, I believe every single season, brother, every single season. Do I believe we can do it this season? Hell yeah. Will it be hard? Yes. Look, I think either one of City or Liverpool, they've been going for about 4 or 5 years now. I believe one of them will tail off. I'm looking at Liverpool this season. Losing Mane, huge loss. I'm looking at them maybe tailing off slightly, and Spurs can sneak in there. And we have the better Man City. It's a general rule that we beat Man City every single time we play them. So I do believe we can win the league. Do you know why? Because we've got Antonio Conte and Kane and Son were both firing pre-season. Both will be challenging for the Golden Boot. And if you do them challenging for the Golden Boot, you will be challenging for the title. Jack, what's your thoughts on Ryan's Super Chat? I know I'm a hard act to follow, but take it away.
That was a hard act to follow. Very impressive, Dave. Huge mic drops there, and obviously love the title kind of knowledge there. The title logic as well. Save it for the Premier League predictions. But I feel like James Madison, if I'm not mistaken, could be the only real quality creative midfielder that's actually homegrown or actually English. I think Jesse Lingard's the only other one that I can kind of think of that's actually out there on the market that you can go and get. You can't get Mason Mount, you can't get Grealish, and any of the other ones that I can, think of. So James Madison is probably the best homegrown creative midfielder you could go for. He's really good at, picking out, teams with a good pass. I think if I can recall a lot of good through balls that I've seen, kind of Madison play before, he knows how to play, a pass in between the lines, he knows how to kind of, play something over the top, to, kind of break apart a team. He doesn't exactly have, I don't think really anybody does, but he doesn't have Harry Kane, passing ability or range, but something, kind of similarly top quality, something kind of similarly, out of this world, where James Madison has played some pretty sensational passes from what at least I've seen of him. He has a good shot from range and actually has a good finish on him. So there's another thing there, is that if you give him, a bit of space outside the box, he can, punish you. I kind of like that, where some of the other creative midfielders we're looking at, I don't know if they have that real threat from range, kind of like James Madison does. So if you ask me, I kind of like, the finishing. I like his passing ability, and I do like the fact that he is homegrown.
You make a great point that he brings goals outside the box, which maybe currently we don't have from any of the midfield options. You make a great point there. Ryan, you're getting everybody absolutely psyched up with this winning the league talk. I absolutely love where your mind is at. Matty, what's your thoughts on what Ryan has to say here, lad?
Oh, people of this channel are going to hate me. I can't see us getting anywhere near a league title, to be honest. Just to be perfectly honest, City and Liverpool are just...
Tell us why.
They're just too good. They're too consistent. The target at the moment to win the league title is 95 to 100 points. Tottenham last season, was it 72 points we finished on? Let me just get that table up real quick.
Yeah, we finished 22 points behind Man City.
Yeah, so we finished on 71 points. So let's assume the target for title next season is 95. That's 24 extra points, which with the signings we've made, maybe, but that's 8
and the set piece coach, maybe, Matty?
And the set piece coach, maybe, but that's 8 extra victories to get to that point. And Jack Pitbrook, I was on Last Word in Spurs with him last night, and he put it perfectly, where he said, for us to win the league, you'd kind of expect that Liverpool and City would need to have an off season. Can you see both of them having an off season? I personally can't. I think City have done fantastic business, and Liverpool are just mentality giants and robots. As much as it pains me to admit that, I just can't see us going for the league title this season. But next season, the season after, the one coming now, obviously, but Conte's still there, another couple of windows under his belt. Maybe at that point we can go for it. But this season, I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think so. On James Madison, I think if we did get him in, that would bring us closer to that, bring us closer to the point of winning the title. He's a fantastic player, like you said, a set piece specialist from free kicks, from corners as well, which is massive for us, especially with Gianni Vio coming in as well. He offers us a lot of tactical versatility. We can switch it up to that 3-4-1-2. He could be that man to unlock opposition defenses if they're going to be parking the bus. He gives other teams something to think about that we don't quite have on our side right now. It's not something that I think we necessarily need, but it is something that will be beneficial to have in there. And I'd be happy to see him come to Tottenham. Again, I just don't think it will happen.
Yeah,
so
well, look,
just crushing everyone.
Big up, Ryan. Actually, look, Matty, a lot of people agreeing with you. And look, it's definitely going to be very, very hard. But all we need is one of Liverpool or City to have maybe just tone it down a little, stop being so good. And then, with us, we can just sneak in there. And I do, look, like I said, mine is based off Kane and Son both fighting for the Golden Boot this year. That excites me. But big up, Ryan. Great question. Just quickly, Matty. Mark Weatherstone says, hi, guys. Great show. Matt, a wee question. How come you are a Spurs fan, but your dad is a Liverpool fan? I live in Belfast for the past 25 years. I'm a Spurs fan. I'm a boy as a Spurs, just like me and my lad, my man. Big up, Mark. But Matty, you broke the trend, and thank God so. We're glad to have you in our fan base.
Oh, thank you. You know the story, David. But so my dad's a Liverpool fan. I do still love him despite that. When I was younger, he used, tell me I was a Liverpool fan. There's pictures of me wearing the jerseys and stuff. But my
let them see the day of light.
Oh, I won't. I absolutely won't. But yeah, my uncle is a Spurs fan. He came over for my communion when I was younger. And he gave me a fiver to tell my dad that I was a Spurs fan. So obviously, an 8-year-old, I wanted my fiver. I told my dad I was a Spurs fan, and it really, really annoyed him. And I think the next week, Tottenham were actually playing Liverpool, so I did it all. I think Liverpool beat us 2-0. But I kept doing it, and it just annoyed him so much that I was just having fun with it. So I kept on doing it, and then here I am, 14 years later, suffering endlessly.
It all started with a fiver for some Freddo bars. Absolutely love it.
I didn't even get the fiver. Just a lifetime of pain, that's all.
But James, I'm sure interest on that has grown substantially over the last couple of years, Matty. So I'm sure it has. Now, guys, I'm just taking another look at the like situation, and I'm not liking where it's at. I'll be honest. It's only at 136. I do feel this show is definitely worthy of 200, 250 plus likes. Maybe you guys are just enjoying it that much. You don't want to smash the like button just yet. So, look, I'd cut a deal with you guys out there. Basically, if you are leaving at any stage between now and the end of the stream, on your way out, would you smash that like button? That'd be awesome. And, guys, like I said, feel free to get any questions in or any comments that you want highlighted in a super chat, and we will get to it. But look, we'll move on to the next piece of news, and probably won't spend too long on this because I think it's a bit of bullshit. But look, we'll see what Matty and Jack think, and it's to do with Jordan Veretout. Now, according to L'Equipe, Tottenham are interested in signing Jordan Veretout this summer from Roma. Marseille is set to make a move for Veretout to replace Boubacar Kamara, who left for Aston Villa this summer, but Spurs could look to hijack a deal for a price of around £13 million. We were linked with Veretout in January, Matty. Do you see Tottenham reigniting their interest before the window closes?
No.
Good.
Oh yeah, we're just so stacked in that midfield position. I don't really see. He's actually a player I did look into a lot last year when we were linked to Paulo Fonseca, or when he almost signed the contract to become our manager. I expected Veretout to be a player that we moved for. Premier League experience with Aston Villa. Oh, apologies, Oliver. I'm really sorry to hear that. But yeah, I think that's a lot of crap. I think at the moment I think Marseille are interested. There's a couple of teams interested in him, so it could just be, agents trying to speed things up. I'd be very surprised if that's in any way genuine.
Yeah, exactly. And Jack, do you think we actually need someone like Veretout? Because for me, I think it's very similar to the options we actually kind of already have. Would you agree with that?
I don't even know if he's really better than any of the options that we have. Could I say with confidence he's going to be better than Højbjerg? I don't know. I don't think he's going to be better than Bentancur. No way he's going to be better than even Skip, I'd imagine. So, and he's way too similar to all those guys. So, yeah, just not really helpful. Not a player that would be helpful.
Yeah, I agree. So, look, we'll stick while we're on Roma. We'll stick with it and move on swiftly. Basically, Zaniolo sticking... there is, we're interested in him. Of course, there was various reports coming out this week saying Conte is an admirer. A report by the Express today saying Tottenham could actually look to use Ndombele as part of a swap deal. Matty, first of all, let's clear up the Ndombele situation. Do Roma actually have any interest in Ronald Ndombele?
I don't know, but I'd be very surprised if they did. But I'd also not be surprised if they did. It's a really weird situation where, like, I can see why they would be interested, because he's a player who I think if he goes to a more relaxed, laid-back league, it'll suit his, and it's just a nice way of saying it, relaxed, laid-back personality. I know Jose worked a lot one-on-one with Ndombele while he was at Spurs. We all know that story of him bringing him to the park in lockdown. But things didn't really work out, and to be honest, I can't remember what the kind of relationship between Mourinho and Ndombele was when he left. But
it wasn't the famous images of Mourinho running around the apartment blocks with Ronald Ndombele, remember?
Well, there we go. Maybe they love each other. But yeah, I think any deal for Ndombele would cost a lot of money, and I'm kind of starting to lean towards a situation where we'd probably see Ndombele and Celso move on later in the window, where buying clubs are desperate, but then also we're desperate just to get rid of them, and we could kind of agree a deal for a bit of a lower price. So I made that point on Twitter, and I really agreed with it. But I really don't know what the situation is with Ndombele, but I don't think we're going to get Zaniolo to have a swap deal there in the first place.
Yeah. Look, we'll wait and see. Jack, does Zaniolo actually fit the type of player that Conte would be looking for? And is it a risk considering he's had 2 massive ACL injuries already at such a young age?
Yeah, I don't think you can ignore, the ACLs as much as he's gotten them at a very young age, and, he can build up the muscle around that area and, perhaps, get past, those ACL injuries. It's just something you have to, always, it's like a big asterisk or something, you have to always, point it out, when it comes to Zaniolo, there is that risk there. I feel like he wouldn't even fit into the team as well as even James Madison would. James Madison, I think, could probably fit into the 3-5-2 better than Zaniolo would. Zaniolo might fit into the 4 or the 3-4-3, better, but I don't really know if we need, another player to fit into the 3-4-3 well. Like, I think we need, somebody to kind of offer something different, maybe help us, form that 3-5-2. So James Madison probably would fit into the system maybe even better than Zaniolo. The one thing Zaniolo does bring, though, is that he is a very hard worker. He is a very good dribbler. He is very powerful in kind of the way that he kind of runs and kind of goes at, players. So he has a lot of attributes that I could see why Antonio Conte likes him. There's a lot of, characteristics that you could see why Conte likes the guy. But I feel like James Madison is a better choice.
Yeah, I agree.
If you get rid of Tanguy and you get Zaniolo, though, it is enticing.
And look, a lot of people in the chat agreeing with you there, David. There's a lot more there as well. There's Dampu wants to know Zaniolo's position. He's more favored on the left, isn't he?
I think he's a right winger. I think he's more of a right winger, and then he can play as kind of like a creative midfielder or like a number 10 through the middle if you need him to. He also technically there were a few times he was playing kind of next to Tammy Abraham. Kind of as like a second striker, even.
Yeah. Can I just mention something on the injuries there? Just that comment that Marcus put up. Zaniolo has had 2 ACLs. Once that happens, it will usually occur again. So, look, I'm no expert. I'm no doctor. I'm a bit of an idiot, to be honest. But from reading into stuff like this, basically, when you do injure one anterior cruciate leg, or really any one part of your leg, you are more likely to injure that again, but on the opposite leg. Because with your ACL, if you injure it in one leg, you're more reliant to put more stress and pressure on that part of your other leg. And that is what has already happened to Zaniolo. So he's had 2 ACL injuries, 1 in each knee. So I was looking into it again recently, and someone made the point on Twitter, and I kind of investigated a little bit more. But basically, when you have an ACL injury, I think he's ruptured both of them, which is, I think, the most serious version of it you can have. Yeah. You have the choice to undergo ACL reconstruction surgery, which a player like a footballer would always do. When that happens, when your ACL is reconstructed, at the point when that surgery is complete, your ACL, according to some different investigations, is 70% stronger than it was to begin with. Now, the only caveat to that is that it weakens quicker. So I'm interested to see the trend in that. If, like, say, the natural curve of or the natural decline of your ACL is like this. When you have that surgery, when it starts up here, at what point does that cross over? And at what point does it become weaker than before? And if Zaniolo, say, has 10 years left at the top level, will it be stronger as it goes on? It's an interesting one, but I don't think it is as clear cut as he's had the injuries. It's going to happen again. There is a period there where he is stronger, and ultimately there will be a lot of tests done. The medical will be extensive. It is for every player, but for a player who's had these injuries, and again, someone on Twitter made the point, Inter Milan want him, or Juventus want him. They strongly want him. They'll know better than we would what the situation is. So I don't think it's as clear-cut as the ACL, but it is for me as well a concern if we were going to go in and make a big signing there.
Yeah, 100%. Very well put by the two of you boys, actually. Big up Mark Miller, who's just in, along with Bobby K. Big up, guys. Great to see you. And big up Paddy Higgins, who, of course, done that masterpiece that's up in the community section on the channel, which I might actually turn into a picture and get framed. It'd look boss in the house. It really would. It look, well, not the house, the apartment. It'd look absolutely boss. Big up, Paddy. And don't worry, the Celso won't be anywhere near the squad. We have two more bits of news to get to. One, Lucas Paqueta and Sergi Reguilon. Before we do, Daxon G says, I don't read too much about Madison not being picked for England, because the head coach always picks the fridge. Counting the two Spurs youth signings, we got a. You raise a fair point there, Daxon G, to be fair, Jack. And do you want to say it to him?
He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all when you're picking Harry Maguire. And especially when Harry Maguire was, being picked during the worst of his time, Dark Sun G. It's not even like he was picking the fridge when the fridge was looking good. He was picking the fridge when it, was probably at its darkest of moments. Like just when Harry Maguire, in fact, probably just needed a break from football. Gareth Southgate was still, calling him up, for England games. Just the guy probably didn't even want to play football. He was still getting called up, and being asked to play, by Southgate. It's a kind of a bit like Didier Deschamps for me, Dark Sun G. I don't rate Deschamps as a manager. I feel like there's a reason why France, kind of continue to make a lot of the games that they play in so much harder than it needs to be. It feels like they're always winning 1-0 or like 2-1 or like something like that when they have probably the best set of players to pick from. So I think Southgate, similar sort of situation, Dark Sun G. I agree with you. Just you can't rate him. You can't take him seriously.
Yeah, look, I can't deny it. You raised a great point there. So, maybe I shouldn't look too much into that whatsoever, my man. And counting the two Spurs youth signings, it was Tyler Ashcroft and Josh Keeley as well. So we do actually have it in the door 100%, but they're not really classified as, signings, my man. They're kind of like just going straight into the youth squads. But you did say 10. If you want to count them towards your 10, you're more than welcome, my man. I will not tell you any different. Big up, Dark Sun G. You raised a very good point. I'll sleep on that one, lad. I definitely will. You made me eat some humble pie there. And Ryan Trestain says, we'll start off with you, Matty, because you don't believe we can win the league. So do you think we can win the EFL Cup and the FA Cup this year with the team we have, as we have Man City's number, and we could win on pens against Liverpool? Very good point. We do. The Conte does have their number. He's Klopp rattled. He does have him rattled. When Klopp gives out about the style of football you play, he's rattled.
Tottenham will win a domestic cup this year. Oh, England just scored a fantastic goal in the Euros. Apologies. Tottenham will win a domestic cup. That's my bold prediction. If you want to clip that, if you want to do what you want with that, because I'm right. I think it'll be the League Cup. I don't think we'll win the FA Cup because it just feels like too big a trophy for a team that haven't won one in 14 years. Or it will be 15 by the time the finals come around. I think Man City, who typically are just win the EFL Cup all the time. I know Liverpool obviously won the double last year, but the fake double. I think City will be so focused on trying to win the Champions League, and Liverpool will be so focused on trying to win the Premier League that they may, put the domestic trophies to the wayside. And at that point, the third best squad in England surely has to become the favourites for those. And I think we're that team at the moment. I think we have a better squad than Chelsea. So I think in my optimistic Spurs mindset, those are within our control right now. And I do think we will win one of them.
Yeah, look, I believe we definitely can as well. Look, at the end of the day, it's inevitable when you get deep in the competition, it's going to be Chelsea, City or Liverpool you come up against. Now, look, with Chelsea, I'm hoping we get that hoodoo off our back second game of the season and that'll put them to bed. You know, they can head down to you know, wherever it is, that posh part where they can go and get their nails done and alongside their poodles. Look, when it comes to slaphead Guardiola, look, City aren't allowed to beat us. It's just a general rule. It's been like that for a few years, and Guardiola absolutely hates Tottenham, so I wouldn't worry about City. Liverpool always piss me off. Always. Whenever we play them, they always beat us, and it really fucks me off. So, look, I do think now Conte has his number. He knows how to stifle Liverpool. And if you look at the team we had last year and he could stifle Liverpool with that, well, imagine what he's going to do when you have Basuma, Perisic, you know, Richarlison off the bench maybe, you know, and these other players to it. Imagine what we can do then. Not only will we be able to stifle them, but we'll take them to the absolute cleaners, my man. Jack, domestic trophy in your eyes this year?
Top 3 and a trophy. That's been my, you know, kind of prediction forever. I'm going to stick by it. Top 3 and a trophy. I'm not going to specify the trophy because who knows? Maybe I'll just come back and say I meant a Champions League. But big up, Ryan. And absolutely, I wish we could play Man City every week, my man.
Big up, Ryan. Yeah, can we play you? Can we play you? Can we play you every week? Love it. Big up, Ryan, my man. Really appreciate the support, brother. But look, we'll crack on to these last couple bits of news. And the first one is Lucas Paqueta. Tottenham have been given the green light to go ahead and approach Lyon to sign the transfer target Lucas Paqueta. Paqueta has been linked with a move to Arsenal and Spurs this summer, with French outlet Mediafoot claiming that the Brazil international is primed to leave Lyon this summer and is now available for around 40 million euros. If you can call me the currency exchange, that will be about 34 million in pounds. Jack, for anyone who may not be aware of Paqueta, can you tell us why he's so highly rated and what he can bring to this Tottenham team that we don't already have if we decide to pull the trigger?
If I'm not mistaken, I think he's like Richarlison, where he's actually very well rated by Brazilian, you know, fans of the Brazilian national team. Like, I think he's probably going to be one of the starters in that Brazilian team. I could be wrong, but I think he's going to be a major feature in that Brazilian, you know, team going into the World Cup. That kind of gives you probably a bit of confidence when it comes to him. I know he had that really poor spell at Milan, but ever since he's gone to, you know, Lyon, he has been able to kind of turn it around over there. This is kind of a bit, you know, inside, you know, maybe a bit, you know, too outlandish, Dave, but he does sort of, it makes sense if like Spurs were to go after him. You know, he's like 24 years old. He's not too young. I think he's like 5'10", 5'11". So he's not tiny. He's not, of course, 6'3" or anything, but he's not tiny, you know, really either. He is left-footed. We don't really have a lot of left-footed, you know, kind of midfielders actually in our team. So that could be a bit of a different dynamic. He does work really hard. He has around 24 pressures a game. I know he's, you know, playing under Lyon's Frank Bosch, who's kind of like the most, I don't know, progressive manager out there. The guy, you know, makes a lot of German teams, you know, look kind of conservative. He does play very progressive football, but Paqueta still does have 24 pressures a game, which is definitely not to be snubbed at. The guy does work really hard. He's a good dribbler, takes, I think, close to 3 shots a game for a guy that isn't, you know, like a striker or anything, you know, being more of a midfielder, kind of like an occasional winger as well, or kind of a number 10. He did decent in the Europa League, 2 goals, 2 assists. I feel like, Dave, you are getting a really good player for that price. I think it would be a bit of a steal, in fact, if you were to get Paqueta for that price. If you paid like 40 million, you know, pounds, something like that, maybe you're probably, you know, starting to pay a bit more, but that's, you know, around the same price that, you know, Arsenal, Dave, you know, got Fabio Vieira, sorry, for it. So that'd be around the same price. So, I mean, I'd probably take Paqueta over Fabio Vieira.
And Jack, Ben Elliott wants to challenge you a little here. Big up, Benji. He says, isn't Paqueta a bit of a show horse? That's a new way of putting it. I like that. All the flair, but not necessarily the end product.
Probably a fair way to describe, you know, maybe how he felt like at Milan, you know, because at AC Milan, he had a ton of flair, but wasn't exactly producing the goods, Ben. So it probably isn't an unfair reflection of him when he's not playing very well. That totally is true. But I think he has turned things around. Like I said, you know, when you see a lot of Brazilian fans, you know, players or people that really like watching the Brazilian national team, rating Paqueta and, you know, giving Paqueta, you know, a lot of plaudits, kind of like what they do with Richarlison. I think that's kind of a good stamp of approval, you know, to go by, if you ask me, because that is the most important national team out there. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. And Stephen Sanders as well, Jack, just one more, says, what if Arsenal get Paqueta? Should we be nervous?
I don't think they'll get Paqueta because they've already got Fabio Vieira, and like that's what I'm trying to make the point there is I feel like Fabio Vieira is sort of maybe the player that if they had, I don't know, like they would have got Paqueta or Fabio Vieira. I'd be surprised if they got Paqueta as well, because that means they would have Emile Smith-Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Odegaard, and I think I'm even missing one more as well. That like they would have like 4 number 10s. Like I think that would be kind of insane, but maybe that's what B-Tech Man City, and I do mean Arsenal, want to do over there.
Yeah, true. Very, very true. Matt, is Paqueta more of a, would you say, a fail-safe option if we don't get James Madison?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I don't know how genuine the interest in that story you read at the top. Where about Tottenham getting the green light? What source is that from?
I got that off the Football London and the live news.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's one that we'll see happen, to be honest. I think it partly Tottenham would be reluctant to bring in another midfielder from Lyon. Doing business with Lyon in the first place is extremely difficult. We learned that with Hugo Lloris. We learned that with Tongi Ndombele. Their president Jean-Michel Aulas will make it as difficult as possible for anything to happen. So this is one that I'm not really paying too much attention to at the moment. I also don't know an incredible amount about the player. Jack obviously would know a lot more than I would, but yeah, I don't think there's much to this, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, sorry to dampen all the Paqueta fans out there. Jack, you need to go get some Kleenex.
They've been in the chat all day. They've been waiting for, those Paqueta, kind of things. I had to come prepared.
They've been building up for it. All I've seen the whole way through.
Glad I came prepared.
Paqueta. And then Jack builds them up, and that he just comes in and takes it out. I love it. I love it.
Bad cop, good cop when it comes. Bad cop, good cop when it comes to these trips.
THFC Till I Die is basically the new Tottenham Tantrum Gold. They've had a rebrand today. And he says, Matt, is there any news on a new centre-back? And I love to see Madison at Spurs. I feel we can have a huge season ahead for us, and we will win a cup double. Tottenham Till I Die. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think this is done. But Matty, any news on a centre-back? It's the big one.
You're going to hate me so much. Honestly, you're going to hate me.
You're only deliverer. I can't hate you.
I know, but I wish I could build up all the hope and all the expectation, but unless both Tanganga and Rodon leave this summer, I don't think we'll sign another centre-back. What we've been told all along is that ideally Tottenham would get 2 centre-backs. Of course, we've already got Clement Longley. In terms of pursuits of the likes of Bastoni, Torres, Vardiol, Ndika, that proper left-sided centre-back, it looks like that has been postponed until next summer, and that Longley is just a stopgap, just for a year. Damn good stopgap, but that we will, we'll properly move for that position next season. I got really excited when I saw Bastoni's agent at the Inter Milan headquarters today. There's a very, very optimistic and a huge stretch of a domino effect that I tweeted about. Realistically, it's not going to happen. I was basically saying with Bremer gone to Juventus instead of Inter Milan, that means that Inter can't sell Skriniar to PSG, but they're now in talks to sign Milenkovic from Fiorentina, which could allow Skriniar to go to PSG. But now PSG are trying to get Mukiele from Leipzig, which means Inter have to sell. And could it be Bastoni? It's way too much of a stretch to take anything genuine from it. But at this point in time, I swear you said Bastoni was a done deal last night, Matt. I did not say Bastoni was a done deal. But yeah, no, I don't think we get another centre back, to be honest.
Spurs, he's got the laughing emojis. I think he's trying to wind you up. But Dermot, I'm sorry to put the dampener on it. Look, it's not only you that'll be crying right now. As soon as this stream is finished, I'm going to go and have a little cry, because I've said it all season long, all summer transfer window. I believe we need someone in here that's an animal in that centre back position. And it looks like it's not going to happen, Dermot. So, look, I'm going to have to find out who makes this decision. And I'm going to have to maybe ring them up and have a word and explain my concerns. But big up, Dermot, brother. Dermotron, really appreciate the support, my man. But, guys, we are going to go on to the last bit of news, and that is Sergi Reguilon. According to Futo Mercato, Sevilla director Monkey will force Koundé to go to an English club. Munchie. What did I call him?
Monkey.
Oh, yeah. I thought
It's all right, Dave. It looks like actually Munchie. Every time you say Munchie as well, it sounds delicious. It sounds like Munchie.
It's making me hungry. That's why I don't want to say the word Munchie. Munchie will force Koundé to go to an English club if Barcelona do not put in a bid soon. Barcelona heavily interested in Koundé since signing Lewandowski, and there have been reports today that Chelsea have also put in a second bid for Jules Koundé. However, Munchie, Sevilla's director, is reportedly impatient and will ask Koundé to accept a move to England, likely Chelsea. If Sevilla successfully move Koundé to Chelsea, they'd have enough funds to make their move for Reguilon, who Lopetegui, Sevilla's manager, I may as well call him Lobster, is likely keen to link up with. Now, Matt, could you see Koundé moving to Chelsea? And if so, would Sevilla then make a move for Reguilon?
I think Sevilla. I think Koundé will go to Chelsea. To be honest, it's only really him or them and Barcelona, and God knows what Barcelona are trying to do. So I think Koundé will go to Chelsea. I'm not sure there's a direct link between Koundé going to Chelsea and Sevilla getting Reguilon, because ultimately they will need to replace Koundé if that's the case. I know they bought Marcao from Galatasaray, who could be the replacement for Koundé. But I think regardless, Reguilon probably does end up at Sevilla. It'll be a loan deal, which doesn't suit Tottenham at all. We'd rather it be permanent because we obviously have to pay Real Madrid for him this summer. So ideally, we would let him go on a permanent. I know, I don't know if you're going to mention it, but he has been offered to Barcelona today on loan as well. So it looks so Tottenham maybe already have just accepted that a loan deal for Reguilon is the most realistic and probably the best option to get something done quickly. But yeah, Reguilon for me will end up back in Spain.
And Jack, if Sevilla are looking to sell Koundé to make a move for Reguilon, well, why don't Spurs just try and make a move using Reguilon to get Jules Koundé to Tottenham?
As much as I'm probably one of Jules Koundé's biggest fans, I'm probably, accepting that we just don't take that chance, because I think with Koundé, Dave, he just doesn't solve that aerial problem that we've been speaking about. We need someone that can actually challenge people considerably in the air. I don't really think that Koundé is poor in the air by any stretch. I just feel like that's not his strength, or that's not really, his superpower, you could say, as a footballer. And I feel like we need to go after someone when bringing in another center back, someone that their aerial ability, is solid, and, it's dependable. And it's even, maybe as far as you could say it's a threat, in the air, and, things like that. You want that type of player. And Koundé isn't that for me. But I would say, Dave, I could still see him going to Sevilla, despite, the Barcelona rumors, just because Sevilla, do they want to link up back with a guy that, got them to that Europa League final and ended up winning that Europa League final? Lopetegui sort of made Reguilon his best career. He made his, best years as a fullback. I could sort of, with the 55 million that they might get from Chelsea for Jules Koundé, if they spend 15 to 20 million of that, on Reguilon, I feel like Spurs might say yes, or maybe even more, so I don't know if they spend, some of that Jules Koundé money, which they could get from Chelsea, I could see him actually going to Sevilla. I know that I'm just speaking out of my ass, but it just sort of makes sense. I'm putting two and two together, putting two and two together with Sevilla. I think Sevilla would be very interested in signing Reguilon.
Yeah, I think there will be as well. Look, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. And look, as Matty said, Reguilon has been offered to Barcelona on loan today as well. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they're just doing that to Barcelona, so they'll hurry up and put in the Koundé bid so that he goes to Sevilla. But Matty, before we leave off, look, outgoings has probably been a bit of a problem this summer, all summer long. And look, I don't think we'll see any signings anytime soon until at least we get some of these players off the books, because our squad is too big. Is there any updates on any departures before we end off, Matt?
Tanganga to AC Milan is quite advanced at the moment. It's not set in stone that it's going to happen, but Tanganga's agent is in Milan. Obviously, Paratici is in Milan as well, so there's definitely going to be a meeting with AC Milan trying to get that done. It looks like a deal that every party is happy to do, but it's a case of the structure of the deal. I think AC Milan want a loan with an option to buy. I think Tottenham would prefer that to be a loan with an obligation to buy and with a buyback clause for Tanganga in the future. So AC Milan have had a heavy interest in Tanganga for a while, which has been fueled by Paolo Maldini, which is always hilarious to me. So if anything is imminent, I would say it is with Tanganga. Lo Celso, Villarreal just need to sell before they can put up the 20 million euro that Tottenham want. Now, Javi Mata, who is a tier 1 Villarreal source, has suggested that Villarreal need to sell, and Pau Torres could be one of the players that they're willing to sacrifice. So I don't know if something starts to move there. I think Rodon will go permanently, probably to Forest. Aside from that, nothing really imminent, to be honest.
No worries at all. Well, I mean, you can't invent news, so you can't drag it out for any longer.
If you want to.
Well, we could, but it wouldn't be beneficial whatsoever. But look, there you have it, guys. Hopefully, everybody has actually enjoyed this transfer stream today. There's 444 people in house, going up to 450, guys. If you want to smash that like and that subscribe button, that would be awesome. But Matty, where can well, I think everybody knows where they can find you. I think, look, you're half of your subscribers, or if not all your subscribers, are subscribed over here. But what's coming up? What can I look forward to, Matty?
I'm going to actually be really awkward and plug my Twitter instead of my YouTube because apologies. It's just I'm closing in on 10,000 followers on Twitter, and I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to hit it. So on Twitter, it's basically what I do on YouTube. It's talking a lot about transfers, just much more regular on Twitter, kind of more live reactions to the stuff that's happening. I tweet pictures of my dogs every now and then, so if you like dogs, head over there. I also try and make my Twitter a bit more interactive, asking your people's opinions on different Tottenham situations and stuff. So thank you for plugging my YouTube. I do really appreciate it, but I'm going to be extremely awkward and greedy and ask people to follow me on Twitter.
Well, there it is, guys. Matty, everybody get over, help him reach the 10K. Look, I'd say they probably already have the notification bell anyway. Hit on your Twitter channel. I'll be surprised if they don't. But guys, everybody get over there. Let's help Matty get to that 10K. But also don't forget about the actual YouTube channel as well, guys. Puts out great content over there. Mark Mueller says Matty is Tottenham content.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Ronnie says up the Dubliners. Big up, Ronnie. And he says, great show. Just liked. Appreciate it. Everyone else, you do what Ronnie's done and smash that like button. But Jack, I mean, where can people find you, brother?
Over on Flatcap, 2 really good videos. I think you'll check out. Darius and I just had a good conversation doing our transfer battles. Basically saying what deal is better. What player has more pressure on their shoulders. With the deal we discussed Richarlison and Jesus, of course. This is kind of an interesting one. Kessié versus Pogba. The 2 big free transfers to clubs. We discussed which one of those is a better deal. We looked at Darwin Nunez versus Vlahovic, which one of those is a better deal. Kind of just had a, good discussion with that. I'm pretty sure people will enjoy. And then also the reaction to the Premier League predictions is finally out. Very, very, very late, but it is out there. And it, I think, is at a, decent length, just sit back, have a bit of dinner, maybe do some dishes and just listen to Dave and I embarrass ourselves with our, previous, league table predictions. And Dave has a few truth bombs. I have a few truth bombs, but there are some howlers as well. Definite howlers.
And I promise I'll be more on point this year. I was clouded last year. My judgment was clouded, but I'll be more on point this year. Just quickly before we do go, Matty, Derek Hutchinson, he's always in here, and he wants to know, Matt, when is the end on Fat Arse leaving?
It has to be this summer. I'll be very surprised. It could be another loan, but I don't think it'll happen in like I said earlier, maybe in the latter stages of the window when everyone's just desperate for something to happen. But if he's still here on the 2nd of September, I'll eat a sponge live on stream.
I'd probably super chat that, to be honest. That's a good idea. Leslie Crawford says, what's keeping sides who are interested in Rodon? He's not expensive and available. We should get our money back.
Yeah, the Rodon situation is really weird because like I always say, there's 4 managers there in Nuno, Mason, Jose, and Conte who didn't really play him. Some of them who've spoken very highly of him. It's a weird situation, but going back to Nottingham Forest, who are doing incredible business this summer, by the way, made another 2 signings today. Brought in Toffolo and O'Brien, who's highly rated from Huddersfield. He'll go back there with Steve Cooper, who he played with at Swansea. I am quite surprised that nothing has happened yet. But yeah, I assume it'll happen.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, there you are, Leslie. Ellie, I've searched for it and I can't actually find it on YouTube. But everybody, so look, maybe I'll speak with Dermot on that. But everybody, do get over and check out THFC Till I Die. Jack, maybe if you can find it, just throw the link in there and see if people want to. We'll get over and give Ellie support. Of course, she's now teamed up with Dermot, so it'll be very, very good. And guys, check out the show that Bobby K and the kids done with We Are Tottenham TV today as well. Absolutely brilliant show. Big yourselves up. Everybody, we will see you back here tomorrow evening. I want to say a massive thank you to Jack and Matty for giving up their precious time this evening. So thank you, boys. Well, Jack will always be here anyway, but more so to you, Matty. Just trying to be courteous, Jack. And a massive thank you to everyone out there who smashes that like, smashes that subscribe, shares their stream, but most importantly, the people that get in the comments and engage with us, and the people that help support the channel with a super chat. Guys, if you want more interaction with myself and Jack, get your comments in underneath the stream, and we will be in there mixing it in with you guys. And even if you have nothing to say, just put in like Dave is a legend, or Jack is the best, or Matty Hayes is Ireland's #2 Spurs fan, but the best when it comes to transfer news. It doesn't matter what you put in. Get the comments in there. It really helps us out. As always, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust.
Come on, you Spurs.